In this section, we'll learn how to create text using the classic text tool. It's the older text tool and it is very limited compared to the newer text engine. However, it will play in all the old Flash players. That is to say, anything below Flash Player 10 will happily play classic text, where the new TLF text will only play in Flash 10 and above. So that really is, to me, would be the only deciding factor in choosing classic text at this point. But let me show you how it works anyway. I'll go to my text tool. I'll start with that. And I'll pop my properties open and I'll switch it over to classic text. Just like the TLF text tool, we can create either a variable width text field or a fixed width text field. So I'm going to create a fixed width text field by clicking and dragging. And you notice that it does not actually create the height, it only creates the width. So if I start inputting text here, it will expand on the vertical but not on the width. Now if I just click over here for a second and then go back to my text tool, if I just click on the screen, that creates a variable width text field. And again, I'm just going to type in some made up words, but you can see here it goes forever unless I hit my return key. And so on. Okay? So it works a little different than the TLF text engine, but basically when I click and drag to create a text box, it does establish a fixed width. Not a fixed height, however. Now let me go in and highlight that text box. I'm actually going to delete this one off the screen for now. But I'll go back to this text box, go to open my properties. And I do have three kinds of text. Static text, which is fairly benign and can even be placed on top of a button and be able to be clicked through and not block the button. Dynamic text is something I would use when I have a text box that I need to address using ActionScript. You know, I might want to populate it with some code, using code to generate text and so on. Perhaps maybe the results of a quiz or something along those lines, where it's going to be different every time the user comes and uses it. And then I have the input text box, which actually allows the user to put text inside of the box. And oftentimes we may use this in forms or maybe in a game situation. But nonetheless, it allows the user to actually put text in the box that we've created. So those are the three text types that I can use using classic text. Now I'm going to leave it on static text for now. Again, we can, of course, affect the character. I do need to highlight the text, I believe, but let me just check to be sure of that. If I slide my slider, actually it doesn't need to be highlighted. Now with that text box highlighted, I can go in and highlight a word. Let's say I'll go with my text tool and highlight a single word. I can affect change to the unique word as well. As far as size goes, if I highlight this, let me just say 24, and then maybe I'll change that color to a red. And there we go. Now let me try changing the font though. I'll just pick stencil here. And that works as well. And again, I have my paragraph controls. I can make it selectable with this key. And I can affect spacing and margins. I can also put a link in. So again, I can just type in a URL. I'll just say adobe.com. Hit my tab key. And that would be a hyperlink once this is running in the Flash player. Now let me try a different type of text box. Again, I'll create a text box over here and just put some words in there. Okay. I'm going to change the type of text box from static to dynamic. Now there's one very important thing. It might have been hard to see. Let me collapse this for a second. You see now it's all on one line. I do need to go into my properties and change my behavior from single line to multi-line. And then that again allows it to flow. Otherwise it will simply be on one single line. Okay. Now again, if I go in here and highlight one word, and again I'm on dynamic text. Let's see if I can make a color change. There's my limitation when I'm on dynamic text. I can only change the characteristics of all the font, all the text in the box. Let me try some of the other characteristics. I'll highlight the one word again. If I change the font, I'll just say Times. You see here how the whole box gets affected. So it looks like only the static text box will let me customize elements within the body of text. Let me try another property. I'll just say letter spacing. There we go. As you see, again, everything is affected. I'm going to just create another text box here. I'm going to close this again for a second. And I'll just create another text box below here. And you'll notice that it actually did adjust the height. Now that is because I was on dynamic text. Static text won't allow for this, but dynamic text will, because in dynamic text I really don't know what potentially could go in there. So in order to have some control over the area that the text sits in, my dynamic text box will allow me to custom size the box, and it will stay fixed as far as size goes, as you can see here. It does expand to allow it, but the width will stay fixed. Okay, I'm going to delete that and create yet another text box. Actually, let me undo that and create a fixed width text box. And go to my properties, and I'll choose input text. And I believe it's the same thing. It will allow me to resize it to a specified area. If I just draw one more box while I'm on that setting, you can see that that's the case. And this is input text. Okay, if I highlight all that, change my letter spacing to 0. There we go. Again, even though I highlight just a single word, when I'm in input or dynamic text, it does affect all the content of that text box, as you can see here. Now, I will warn you, if you put this text over something that's interactive, such as a button, it will block it. The only text box that will not block it is the static text box. And that's basically the lowdown on using classic text. The big deal with the classic text is that, again, if you are running on older Flash players, it will work. As opposed to the new TLF text, it will only work on the Flash Player 10 and above. So those are the basics on how to use classic text in Flash.